I understand it, relax.
No, I know. I didn't know. Tony called me because I said, well, I didn't know. I was going to ask Chris. I said, you're in town here. But you can. And he said, no, he said, I think Louise, I probably took the bus just because of what they want to do. He's also said they don't have the money, so who knows. But we'll talk.
It's probably a couple, probably originally started.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, we'll call the meeting to order, budget hearing. Today we're meeting over public works, capital projects, and capital improvement plan. First, we'll start with courtesy of the floor. Is there anyone in the public who would like to address council?
Lamont McClure, Bethlehem Township.
Okay.
I'd beg council's indulgence. When Mr. Parson returns to the room, I'd like to say a few words under courtesy of the floor. But as he has absented himself, I would like to wait to do that. Oh, well, there he is. Okay. He's returned. So Mr. Parsons has told me that December 18th will be his last day in the service of Northampton County. And, you know, a finer public servant I have never met. He was a Wind Gap Borough Councilman serving his neighbors for many years, over many terms. He served on this august body with me and some of you. He took a great deal of interest in his work here at the county in the term that he spent on Northampton County Council and represented his constituencies with zeal. Constituents with zeal. And when I asked him to be the Deputy Director of Public Works for Northampton County, I did not realize what a fine public servant that I would end up having working with us here. This administration, over the nearly 3 years, in part due to council support, has had tremendous success. And one of the reasons we've had such success is because of people like Mr. Parsons being willing to serve the people of Northampton County. And I am extremely grateful for the work he has done in collaboration with Mr. Derdinger. I am extremely grateful for the work he has done assisting our Director of Public Works, Mr. Mealy, and in some ways mentoring him as I had hoped he would do during his time here. I am greatly pleased that Mr. Parsons was such an effective leader. You know, so work has to get done, right, in operations and maintenance. And Mr. Parsons made sure work got done. He would go up on roofs with the men. He was that kind of leader, but he also understood the needs of the folks who work here as well. So he was a working person's leader as well. And I think highest compliment I can give Mr. Parsons as he prepares to retire, which, by the way, he absolutely should. He's given enough of his life to the work world. I mean, he really has, and his service to us in the county, to me personally, has been invaluable. And the highest compliment I can give to him today is that if he changed his mind tomorrow, he could still have his job. Thank you for indulging me.
Peace out.
Thank you, Mr. Executive, and thank you, Mr. Parsons. We didn't know her, we would have had a trophy ready, but we'll see. Good luck. Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay. All right, well then I guess, is there anybody else who wants to address council? If not, we'll start up. And first thing is the Public Works Program, and that's on page 148. We have the graph of the 2020 operating Public Works budget, and we'll take a look at that. And then right across from it, you have 149, which is the Public Works Program Summary. So why don't you take a look at that? And Mr. Amelia, if you want to say anything and to begin, you feel free, and then when council has any questions, I guess just ask.
Sure. Before we start diving into the budget, I just wanted to acknowledge my staff that's here tonight. Lucky enough to have most of my division heads here, my subject matter experts that I just want to introduce to council. Starting in the front, have Serena Davis, our Environmental Services Coordinator. Brian Cope, I believe you all know from his many council visits. We have Landon Parker, the Bridge Superintendent. Roger Paulsini is the Operations and Maintenance Supervisor here at the Government Center. And of course, Scott Parsons, who got such a glowing commendation from Executive McClure. So with that said, I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
All right. All right, so let's take a look at your graph and take a look across at 149. And are there any questions before we then get into the specifics? I can't even read this. If not, let's just see something here. Just for the purpose of clarification, when you have a line item for bridges, those are county bridges.
Correct. We
Yeah.
do have several
So we
bridges.
don't get, because I know that's been a source of a little confusion throughout the last couple of years. Not anybody's trying to, just in general, when we're talking about the bridge situation. So your line item is just the county-owned bridges.
Correct. There are a couple bridges that we share with Lehigh County. One of them
yeah.
being the Copley Northampton Bridge that's wrapping up construction. So we would chip in a percentage of work for those types of
Do we
projects.
share the Cementon Bridge as well? I think we do. It's Northampton and Cementon, the metal bridge.
Yeah, I think that one is owned exclusively by PennDOT.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, okay, it's on a state route. All right, I didn't know. I thought, because I know it borders the two counties, but I didn't know. Do we? Yeah, we have the one that's from North Caddy to Whitehall, I guess you'd say. And then the one that's the newer one, the Copley. Okay, all right, those two. Those are the only two that we have in partnership with them? Yeah.
No, we have two in Bethlehem as well.
All right, no, he didn't, I just, that's me. All right, okay, so we have the Bethlehem and we have those two, all right. I'm sorry, so you answered the question. Are there any questions on these two pages? If not, we'll dive into the specifics. And I guess we'll go to page 140 or 150. And we have the administration summary. And then let's look at 150 and 151. And if you're wondering about your blue book, that's 138. So we'll go to 150, 151, Public Works Administration Summary, Public Works Administration. Is there anything you want to say, Mr. Amelia, about any of those?
No, the revenue, you'll see a pretty large decrease. That was due to the completion of a emergency watershed protection program at Fry's Run. It sustained some damage back in 2018 that we received grant funding from DEP and NRCS on. That project's closed out, so that accounts for that large drop in intergovernmental revenue.
Okay. Questions? If not, we'll move on. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Hefner.
The easement section, there's nothing budgeted. And why is easements there? I guess it's on 139?
Okay, you're in your blue book.
Yes.
We do have funds budgeted for easements. It just drops down into the pooled program
I see.
operating cost. It's not reflected in the individual line item. But
So
we do
that
have-
comes under your administration as opposed to respective projects?
Correct. Yeah, it was fiscal decided, I guess it was cleaner that any easements associated with even with the P3 just come out of this Public Works Administration org rather than the P3 org.
Under bridges itself or something?
Correct,
Okay,
yep.
thank you.
All right. Any other questions on either? If not, we're going to go to insect pest management on page 152, and it's 140 in your blue book. Pretty straightforward. And then right across from it, you have solid waste and recycling on 153. So why don't we do it that way? If you have any questions on that. I was looking at this, and I was wondering, the pest management, with the spraying for the black flies and the tipsy moth, do you see any changes? I guess you don't see, that program isn't being diminished in any way that you're aware of? Or?
No, most of the
Someone asked me if they had heard in Harrisburg that they were cutting back on some of that, and I just wondered if you had gotten anything.
No, that wouldn't impact us. I believe most of the black fly spraying is done by the state DEP.
Yeah.
Our program is mainly just interested in mosquito control.
Okay. We get funds for that, right?
Correct,
We're not.
yes.
You don't foresee any cut in those funds.
I believe the state came out and said that they were a 5% reduction in the program grant for next year.
Hopefully there'll be a 5% reduction in mosquitoes to correspond with that. Mr. Kusick, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I don't see anything in here for the spotted lanternfly. Has the state provided any funds for that pest?
Does that come out of conservation district?
Yes, there is, no, the answer is no. They have not.
I know the conservation district has talked about it, but I'm just wondering, is that where funding for that program is located?
I believe there's education funding for the spotted lanternfly, but if you're talking about mitigation, I think that would
They haven't
be different.
settled on any mitigation.
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
They are working on it.
And our environmental health specialist, who's in this insect pest management, he does assist with spotted lanternfly control. His primary duties from April to October, I believe, is mosquito control. But he does assist once that program is up with setting up, the sticky bands on some of the county properties, as well as looking out for egg masses and removing them when he can. So he does what he can to assist with spotted lanternfly.
I believe that Penn State Ag also assists with mitigation in some ways too, in education.
All right.
Putting bans on trees at one point. Okay.
Okay. We can get into that then at a meeting or something, but all right, so are there any other questions on solid waste and recycling or insect pest management? If not, we're going to flip the page to Parks and Recreation Summary on page 154 and Parks and Recreation on 155, and that's 142 in your blue book. So why don't you take a look at that? Hopefully you did your homework, but take a look now and see. I guess the only thing I saw was I wanted to ask you about we have a drop in the intergovernmental of about 460,000, and then in expenditures we have a drop of over 200,000 in the OSI county parks. I just wondered if you could give me the meaning behind those.
I believe it's the drops in the intergovernmental are largely just a result of drawdowns from the grant funding that we've been receiving.
Okay.
No, that's it. We have like 7 different grants out right now.
So is that just a combination of all them if you put them all together, that's how much it's dropped, intergovernmental.
Yeah, I mean,
You have to come up then if it's involved.
we have close to 7 or 8 different grants out there, accumulating almost $1 million, and they're multi-year ones, so every year we take a little bit as we finish off a project or a phase within that grant portion.
Okay, so what we're looking at 2021 is what's left, or what's out there, there's 459, there's approximately 460,000 less that you're budgeting for 2021 that's available. I'm on page 154.
154.
You might not have this sheet, but yeah, this is the summary for the entire
Okay.
division.
So is that's OSI. So this is Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
But he was asking about, you were, Mr. Heckman, you were asking about the OSI County Parks specifically? or
Well, the top one was the intergovernmental, the first line, and it dropped by 460,000. And you had said something about grants, and I just wondered if that was accounted for by less money for grants. In 2020, you budgeted $1,327,950. In 2021, you budgeted $868,000. In intergovernmental, a drop of 35% roughly, 460,000. I just wondered what accounted for the drop.
That is part of the grants that are starting to finalize now. I think we started a couple years ago getting accumulations on these grant awards. Projects are being completed, the drawdowns are happening, that's the decrease that you're seeing.
Okay, and then the OSI was the OSI county parks dropped by 209,000. The third one down on expenditures by cost center.
Yeah, that would be the same reason, it's a different grant. Right, it's matching funds, 50-50 match on the majority of the grants that we do.
Okay, all right.
And I know another one of them was another FEMA grant that we had received for that same August 2018 flood event.
So it's directly affected. You're dropping your revenue in that area, and then as a result, you're not going to be able to have the expenditure will be going down as well. All right, that's fine. I just wanted to understand it better, but thank you. Other questions? Mr. McGee.
And this is not related, so I'll keep it brief, but with the outdoor activities and COVID, are you still getting some signups for the parks this summer? Did you get some signups, and did you use the stuff?
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers on the pavilion rentals, but we did have a decrease this year. We saw the immediate decrease in the spring. We started to get a fill up again, and then it kind of decreased a little bit. But we probably saw one of our highest records on record for fall. So we did have a lot more people coming back. We offered a refund throughout that entire time. Like I said, you saw the majority of people really step back, and then they came back with the reservations. And then we had a few that didn't ask for a reservation. They just didn't show up that day. But we did have a decrease, but it wasn't as drastic as we originally thought.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. If there's no other questions, I'm going to move on then to Louise Moore Park bequest. And why don't we just take a quick look at that? I don't think there's really much there to, do you have any specific questions on that?
John.
Oh, go ahead, Tara.
I actually do.
All right.
For the Louise Moore Park, obviously there's a huge drop in what you're spending, but is that because there is no more money in the trust? Because that's been drawn down, and if so, how does that get replenished?
Yeah, so the bulk of the money that was in that trust was used to fund the renovations to the farmhouse that the Parks Department and Bridges are currently occupied now. That was done about 2 to 3 years ago. The money that's shown in here as being the $75,000 decrease, that was because we had to, that was basically the final payments associated with that project, as well as installing the site lighting there as well.
Right.
In terms of it getting replenished, beyond simple interest, yeah, I don't know more than that.
The stock market, really?
there's money left.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Mr. Heckman can.
well, I mean, there's money left.
right.
We can can come up and, we can talk about it at the meeting or something, or you want to do it now.
No, I don't think, but
There's
But
money,
still money in the trust.
yes.
Okay.
It is invested and it's handled by our money manager that handles the pension. So that's how it grows to the extent it does.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation.
And it is limited to use for that
Right.
as part of the trust, so there is money there and it is guarded. Okay. Does that answer for you, Tara?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr.
If I
Kusick,
could, if I could just follow up on that question, are the renovations to the house done?
Yes.
Okay.
doing a tour?
You should take a trip there. Yeah,
No,
It's really beautiful.
yeah, the last time I was there were still some odds and ends going on. I was just wondering if it was finished, and I'm glad to hear that it is.
All right, very good. Open Space Initiative County Parks, page 157. We're going to go down the list of the would you specify OSI? What does that stand for?
Open Space Initiative.
Open Space Initiative, County Parks. All right, so we'll start on 157. And then that's 145. Blue book. What? Or 146, I don't know. You're right. All right, there we go. So, any questions? Mr. Kusick?
Yeah, just a broader policy question. Maybe Mr. Cope can answer this. I know we had a presentation for, what was it, the Bear Swamp? And I know that there's potentially additional phases for Wayne Group Park. I'm just wondering if any of those are going to be investigated or pursued at any point, because we're obviously adding money to the fund balance here, but I guess it's more of a broader policy perspective. Where do we see that going anytime in the future? You know, we can make some improvements to our parks, but there are some good plans on the shelf, and you know, I'm someone who I don't mind seeing plans, but putting them on a shelf is not useful. So I'm just hopeful that we dust some of those off and consider what we're going to do with those plans we have in hand.
Mr. Cope?
So we,
Just be sure you come up to the microphone,
Sure.
because otherwise people don't hear you at home.
So with the OSI County Park money, we've done some of the plans in the past, and we're actually putting implementation into on ground right now. Norbath was, well, that was a grant, but Tots Gap, Bear Swamp, we're fixing things up. We're looking at boardwalk improvements. Mincy Lake has $500,000 that we're matching to improvements right there. New trails, new parking areas, things like that in that whole 1,200 acres. As we're building the Mincy corridor plan, we're actually doing things as real time. Wyatuck has improvements happening. The biggest thing really with this whole COVID thing is all of the people that had work lined up in the spring, we didn't get good bids for summer and fall to really move forward with a lot of projects. It wasn't like we didn't have the money or the resources to move things forward. It was getting really stuff in. Everyone was swamped. And we've heard this throughout the state. I've talked to people through our maintenance program with the state. Everyone is just having problems at that point. So we're lining things up right now. We're doing some tree maintenance that was approved for in the funding from this year here at Graysdale. Along the Norbath, we're taking care of some ash trees that are dead. So these things are starting to line up, and we're going to see a really heavy construction hopefully in 2021.
Yeah, now for Wayne Group Park, I know we kind of set it aside because of all the construction going on up there with FedEx. Do you have a vision once that kind of settles down up there as to where you'd like to go? Yeah, I know there's a plan on a shelf, but you know, the prices probably have gone up significantly since we last updated
I mean,
it.
the original plan's about 10 or 12 years old, around there right now, but there's still things that we want to look forward. So taking some money out of this to do the engineering and permitting to extend some trails. There's still a underpass underneath East Bull's Head Road that
Yep.
is still closed up. So let's see how we can open that up. I know there was some setback and when the bridge right at the south entrance, when there was talk about expanding, that's kind of passed, so now we can move forward with looking at that. Want to put a more access road coming from Weaversville into the park area where we have our maintenance shed. So yeah, there's things that we want to keep moving forward with at Wayne Group. Now, the big ticket items of new pavilions, parking lots, and things like that, those are not a $150,000 price tag, but there's things that we can look at. I want to get into more detail with those at that park. That was kind of one of the last ones that we've looked at throughout the whole system.
Good, I just wanted to make sure that we were moving forward with
Sure.
something, because I knew that we kind of, once the FedEx building was going in there, we kind of put it on the back shelf. I'd like to make sure it's still on the front burner at some point.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Kusick, you know, the kids have Elf on the shelf, governments have plans on the shelf. Before you go, Mr. Cope, I'm going to ask you a question. It's not so much budget related. I'm glad we're looking at doing more work out at Bear Swamp and the archery range. I was just out there a couple weeks ago again. That's going to be worked on because some of that wood is.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out the whole course layout.
Yeah.
But the structure itself, right, when you pull off of the
Yeah.
road there, that can easily be fixed up. We just need to figure out how to do it, so we're trying to get some prices and what the best concept is.
And speaking of that, let me ask you a question. Do you know, just roughly, how many total acres are we talking about at the Bear Swamp complex that the county has?
I want to say around 250 maybe at Bear Swamp. I know
Okay.
the whole combination's around
Then you have the other side of the
1,200.
road.
right. You have the Olympic fields across the
Yeah.
road. You have like that small nature center that needs some help.
Right.
That boardwalk needs some help.
Yeah, that's what I want to, is the future plan, as long as you're here when you look at money and budgets, that walk, I'll call it the walk, you know about it. Sometimes they'd put 3D targets back there.
Right.
But are we, as a future, has the thought been that that should just be a walk, a nature walk? I mean, it's a great thing to walk, whether you want to shoot archery or not. And I don't know from a safety standpoint, because the archery range is right there. But I mean, I know I wouldn't, as somebody who's into archery, I wouldn't be opposed to that being just for people to observe. I mean, you're not afraid of maybe noticing a black bear somewhere off. There's a reason they call it Bear Swamp. But the thing is, it's a nice walk. I mean, if you don't have to step in the water, if the boards aren't rotted or something. But I mean, I just wondered, is the ultimate vision that would be the walk as part of everything that's going to be fixed?
I don't want to step out of the plan that's kind of getting started, but yes, that would be a component.
Yeah,
Now,
well, no, I don't, Mr.
would the
McCourt's gonna be
station
fine. I
stay?
mean,
I'm not sure.
ultimately, that's part of the park, I
Yes.
would think. I'm not putting a date on it, but at some point, that would be
No,
looked at
and
as part of it.
like one of the things that we would hope to even maybe look at next year or the immediate following year would getting that connection across the power lines where those broken boards are.
Yeah,
We had a company out that's done boardwalk work all across the country. It's all ADA accessible. It's actually a concrete mix that they put on pylons.
okay.
They do it in wetlands specifically.
Yeah.
So about a week ago, we were out looking at that. So we're putting concepts together with that to see how we could get that to work. And we'd actually like to extend an ADA walk about 1,500 feet along the west shore of Mincy Lake itself. Which would allow access for anyone in a wheelchair or anyone to get into the woods and get back into a more secluded lookout of the lake itself.
And I don't want to get us off topic. It's just, Bear Swamp is like, we talk about Wyhituck, and at the other end of the county, you have Bear Swamp, and they're really nice places. And I mean, you know, I'm glad we're putting attention to them, and I always talk up our parks to people, and I was just wondering. So thank you for indulging me. Are there any other questions? Tara?
Sorry. Mr. Cusick said something about dusting off different plans, and we just recently acquired that gift from Ned and Linda
Yes.
Heindel, which was like a 20-some, 30, whatever, 40-year project, right?
Mhm.
Are there any more projects like that sitting on a shelf that we should be aware of, that we could take an inventory of, so that we can understand how it is that we might budget them either this year or in the coming years, so that we can actually get those projects moving?
The majority of the plans, development-wise, we've kind of started like the last year and a half to update. We're not doing full-blown master site plans. We're looking at those ones that are 10, 15 years old and saying, okay, what can we do in the next 5 to 6 years? And get those through more of a facility upgrade plan and straight to engineering and permitting. That's the, like, we gotta get to that point.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of have assessed internally in each park what we can do to make improvements to get things kind of rolling in everywhere, so we can spread the money out throughout the county.
Okay, so is there like a 5-year or 10-year plan for that?
We have things in our livable landscapes plan that was
Okay.
completed. So we're kind of checking those off
Okay,
as we go.
but there's no other ones besides the ones that are in the livable landscapes?
We have things written down, but not actually like a capital improvements, like long-term, like do this, each one.
Oh, okay. Because I'm just concerned about, like, the longevity of the programs and, you know, how they're going to carry over from person to person in the next 10, 20 years. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I think what we're doing now, like doing those smaller in-depth analysis and getting the engineering and permitting ready for each of those parks that have the big plans, that's gonna get us at least 10 years of projects. It's gonna be, I mean, engineering, permitting, that could take 2 years right there.
Okay,
So then when we get to the like, so we have a ball moving, and a lot of the grants that we've received already help start that process.
okay. So not here right now, but at some point in time, I'd love to talk to you about it.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right, anybody else? Questions? Concerns? All right, if not, we'll move on to Open Space Initiative Municipal Parks. That's page 158, and I believe it's 148 in your book. Take a look at that. Any questions there? If not,
Yeah, just real quickly,
yeah,
are,
Mr. Cruz.
yeah, are there applications in the pipeline? I mean, I always hate appropriating money if we don't have projects. So I guess that's my question. Do we have projects in the pipeline that we anticipate spending? I think it's, what is it, $350,000?
Yeah, the next round of grant applications will be due in March.
Okay. So we really don't know, we're just kind of estimating? All right.
Wait, I'm sorry. Is that it then? You got your answer?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, there aren't applications now, but there will be. That's what I'm hearing.
You want to?
So we do. The money that is in for next year's budget is what was spent last year. Sherry Acevedo is out talking to all municipalities for both land conservation and our municipal park program through our livable landscape, so.
yeah, I think what I was kind of, let me try to explain. What I was wondering is this for money for projects that are already approved and ready to go?
Yeah.
Or is this for the ones that you anticipate coming in next year?
Yes.
Okay, so the grant deadline will be in March,
Mhm.
right? And then, I guess my question is, can the municipalities spend that money next year? Because I just know, you know, at the municipal level, you know, by the time the grant is awarded, okay, it's gonna be a few months, so you're talking about the summer that they get the grant. You know, what exactly can they do in next calendar year? Wouldn't that more roll into like 22 when it would actually be spent? I guess that's my,
Sure, so
my
it's kind of like our,
question.
it's kind of like the grants that the county receives from DCNR or others. We apply for 1 year, and then hopefully, we have a 3-year time frame. Our grant that we administer is a 2-year time frame. There's municipalities that get it done that year. We probably administer those grants as fast as anyone. Our timeline is from pretty much March, and we're probably in front of you through review for the open space and administration for approval of those projects around June, July. So there are municipalities that can get those done, or at least a portion of that project done within that first year. But we've seen the majority of them finish within that 2-year timeframe.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, then let's go to the environmentally sensitive on page 159, and that's 149 in your blue book. So, any questions on that?
Yeah, I guess just the same one. Do we have projects in the pipeline, or is this where we're accepting applications and this is a pot for
Yeah,
applications?
this is land acquisition. It's part of our Livable Landscapes program too. And once again, Sherry's been getting projects to us. And I think the answer without going into any more detail is yes. And if there was more money, we would probably even fight against some of the developers for some larger tracts of land. I mean, we're in the midst of some negotiations, and some of them are extremely high that we just can't do. There are others that, with what we have in place and what we could have next year, we can make some significant strides.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Myers?
This is for farmland we're purchasing?
It's open space and environmentally sensitive lands, not farmlands.
Could you just do really quick, environmentally sensitive, real quick, what that means?
That was my next question.
I
Probably
figured,
define it better than I can.
and, you know, without,
Real quick, it's environmentally sensitive lands are lands that we want to preserve for water quality, for historic cultural lands. It's lands that the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission over the past 30, 40 years have identified as high quality, high preservation areas for a listing of between steep slopes, wetlands, road accessibility, development threats. We kind of had a plan and from the LVPC, and we used that as our ranking for many years since this open space initiative has been started.
I think there was.
Is there anything on that priority list that you're looking at?
The majority of land preservation that we've done has been on those lists.
Is that it, Mr. Myers? I think we had a councilman once who always found it as land nobody would want and we buy. I didn't necessarily I never agreed with that necessarily, but that was, I don't want to get into it further than that, but I heard that quite often. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, let's go to Act 13 Environmental Initiative, that's page 160.
Yeah, one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a comment on that. I actually think it's a very important program, and I'm glad that we're funding it. And I look forward to seeing what the next project will be. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Act 13. I always like to think of a teachable moment. I heard someone say that once, so I repeat it. But Act 13 is, quickly, what is Act 13? You or Mr. Cope or whoever wants to, just.
So Act 13's Marcellus shale tax that the county gets for both bridges and specifically for open space preservation, flood, park, trails.
Right, and it has to be used in that.
Just for certain
area.
specific, yes.
Okay, so there you go, Act 13, Mr. Myers, go right ahead.
We've used the majority of this money as matching funds to get our Norbath Trail project going, work up at Mincy Lake. We've given grants to municipalities for flood mitigation, stream restoration, environmental restoration enhancements. Archibald Johnston, we've matched that with DEP grants, Fry's Run, Frost Hollow projects. So we use that money on our county lands, but in the past, we've also given grants for large regional trail projects. I think the Norfolk Southern acquisition is a prime example of that. Projects that can implement larger larger projects to get completed that really aren't in the county general fund, so.
Brian, before you run, that fund, I understand where it's coming from. Is there is that a steady, I mean, under state statute, or is there a time frame on it, or it's a continuous fund, at least at this point in time?
It's an annual allocation.
Is it competitive with it's straight to us? Okay.
Yeah, there's different levels. There's counties that have wells that get a
Yes.
lot more. We are based off population. So there's
Okay.
a calculation that gets run, and we get so much each year based off population.
Oh, darn it, my glasses broke. Yeah, I'm sorry. Lamenting the fact my glasses broke. All right, thank you, Ryan. You answered my question. Any other questions? If not, we're going to go to livable landscapes. Page 161, I believe. Yeah, 161. And 151 in your book. So. If there's any questions.
Yeah, just quickly, the property that we just purchased from the diocese, is there any money budgeted for upkeep or improvements there?
Yeah, that would be coming out of the OSI County Parks org.
All right, if there's no questions on livable landscapes, then what we're going to do is, we're ready to jump into the custodial services on page 150 or 162, and page 152 in the blue book. So, I don't know if anybody has really any questions on that. If
Just
not,
one.
why don't you just look ahead then
With the COVID, I see a decrease here, and was there not, like, supplies for COVID and all that? That's not in this part of the budget?
No, it is. We tried to offset the increases due to COVID, in other areas where we could. But there were some one-time purchases that we needed to make this year to get hand sanitizer stands, that sort of thing that kind of drove up this year's budget. And, I mean, I also projected a little higher than normal for next year because, pandemic is not going away in January 1st, unfortunately. So we did project a little bit higher for some of our service and operating supplies. We also tried to take into account the need for additional supplies out at the forensic center while that building gets stocked up.
Okay, so that would have came under operating supplies.
Yes.
Okay, that's where the increase. Thank you.
Smart.
Getting back to the COVID-19 question, if we have a building and someone tests positive or a couple people test positive, do we shut it down for hours, do some deep cleaning? Is that part of custodial services? Is that being done?
They do deep cleanings when we're notified of a positive case.
What do you mean we do the cleaning? Explain that to me.
Our staff will go up there and sanitize any common touch points, printers that may be shared, door handles, elevator buttons. That's kind of the
Is that in any of our buildings? All of our buildings, if something like that pops up?
that would be any of the county's facilities.
And did we budget for that?
Yes, it's our normal operating budget for that.
Well, it can't be normal operating budget because COVID's not normal.
Well, some of the supply costs increased, but in terms of personnel, it really hasn't affected us.
If we looking purchasing on some of those electrostatic type of guns that can spray, are we using any of those?
We are not.
And did we even look at them?
I mean, it's an airborne illness. I mean, I think a lot of it is you focus on decontaminating everything that people touch, but I mean, you don't want to waste too much money on sanitizing hard surfaces that don't really, that's not how the virus is primarily transmitted. So I'd try to be cautious of spending in the wrong areas there.
I would disagree to some extent as a person who spent a lot of years doing that type of work, whether it's hard service or any other type of service. These guns are electrostatic. They can hit areas that, yes, it's airborne, but also can be done by spray and contact too, correct?
Yes.
So a piece of equipment like that, that can knock it out instantly would be vital to what we would like to do, yes or no?
We can look into that.
I mean, don't, I'm not trying to throw up red flags, but something that is this contagious, even though they may be working on antidotes and anything else, but that can affect a whole lot of people. So, just throwing it out there as a guy who used that type of equipment, might be something you might want to investigate, that's all. Thank you.
All right. Anything else on custodial? If not, let's go to operations and maintenance, right there on page 153. 163. All right. So at the moment, we're, knock on wood or that reasonable substitute, we don't have any our systems are all in good shape for the most part across the board.
Yes.
HVAC always worries me.
Well, I mean, we have some needs that are budgeted for in the capital budget, but
Yeah.
overall, our systems are in good shape and they're well maintained.
Good.
Mike, do we have any big projects that you're looking at in here for this, the capital?
It wouldn't come out of this org,
Yeah,
it
we're
would come
gonna
out of
get
the
into
capital
capital
improvements.
projects then,
board.
Mr. Myers, so.
This is really just our normal
It's a
operating.
Regular operational
Yes.
cost.
All right, anything else on operations and maintenance? Nope, okay, if not, let's go to page 164, always a favorite, bridge summary. And,
My favorite topic.
yeah, everybody loves bridges. And, we have 164 is bridge summary, 165 is bridges, and, 155 in your blue book. So why don't you take a look at those two pages and think about any questions you may have on this budget. I guess the question I'd have, everybody's looking, is the money we've budgeted for the P3 improvements under expenditures is down 2.2 million. Is that in keeping with the contract the county has with the GPS, which in turn has?
Yeah, that number is largely driven by the milestone payment structure. And this past year, I believe, was the highest output in terms of those milestone payments. There were two large ones that were included in this year.
So just, if you could refresh my memory, what's how many years was the agreement for?
The agreement envisioned a 4-year construction
what I
period
thought.
and a 10-year maintenance period.
Okay, and the payments that we're making, is that over the course of the 10 years?
Correct.
But it should be decreased fairly, but once we get past the 4 years, I would think the maintenance part, it would drop. Or is it pretty much the same?
No, the payments are definitely front-heavy more
Yeah.
so during the construction period,
Right.
and then they tail off during the maintenance period. And that's partially what, accounts for that difference that you initially questioned.
And when did that contract, what was the start year, 17 or 16?
2017.
17, 18, 19, 20. So we're at the end of the 4-year period.
We're
Well,
like
no,
a
wait.
year behind.
No, that would be 2020.
Technically, it was a 4-year build project. All right, I'm just asking. All right, that was enough. Now, questions?
But you-
Go ahead, Mr. Tucci.
All right.
You're a giveaway with your eyes.
The Act 13 bridge improvements, I'm not sure how we're going in order here, but the capital number for 2021 is $2,783,000. And at the bottom, you list the 3 bridges: 162 Copley Northampton, Lower Saucon Meadows Road, and Williams Township Crestman Road. Those all happen to be in district. So I was wondering if you could break down out of that 2.7 million, 2.78 million, what you anticipate spending on each of those 3 bridges next year.
How much is left on the.
Yeah, it's 166 in the white book, or,
Oh, wait, you're jumping to,
Oh,
He's
Are-
on Act 13.
yeah, Act 13,
oh, you're jumping my schedule here.
am I?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
well, I
are.
just wondered, does anybody have any questions on 164, 165? If not, we can.
Oh,
go there.
okay.
And that was just bridge summary and bridges. If there's
Well, I have
nothing-
one simple question.
Yeah, go ahead,
I think.
then we'll
So
jump
it
into
says
the
you have
bridge.
3 staff, and this gentleman is part of the bridge.
Yes, Landon is the bridge superintendent, and he has two full-time maintenance workers that he oversees.
So their responsibility would be what, to just go around and inspect our bridges that we own, or?
They take care of minor maintenance items. They take care of, grass cutting around the bridges, de-icing in the wintertime around the bridges, minor repointing, crack sealing, those types of minor repairs.
Sorry to ask, but I'm so used to the other mess that I don't know our own, so it's nice to know what our own people do.
No problem.
All right, well, then let's dive into the specifics here, and we'll get to the Act 13 bridge improvements. Oh, this one here I use. Okay. Page 1, Act 13 bridge improvements. Mr. Kusick, you had a question.
Yeah, and this kind of did go back to the summary. This year, we had a 2.665 million, and for next year, there's 2.783 million budgeted for capital. And you target those 3 bridges, Copley, Northampton, Meadows Road, and Crestman Road. Can you give us maybe a rough estimate of how much you anticipate spending on each of those 3 bridge projects?
Sure. Wait, hold. Did I hear something?
You did.
Never mind.
Hey.
I gotta get used to this. I'm used to Peg's musical
Now
one.
Tom
but
has a ring.
Tom has one. Everybody has a distinctive sound. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's okay. It's a new era. I used to have one that went giggity giggity, and my son would call.
Well, his sounds like a bird. Hers sounds like a clown car.
So for Bridge 8, the Crestman Road Bridge, we're still wrapping up the design work on that, so I don't have a final estimate at this point, but just ballparking, it's probably around 750.
750 for that one. And that's a box culvert type of replacement?
The replacement superstructure, it'll basically be very similar to what's already out there. The site constraints there are so tight.
Oh,
working
yeah.
Next to that historic grist mill, you really don't have room to change much from the original design.
Okay. So 750 for Bridge 8, and a portion of that is FEMA money, is that correct? Or
Correct. About 268,000, I think, would
okay,
be.
268 is FEMA.
You can ask a question.
Okay.
Do you know how much is encumbered?
So
for Bridge?
now we've still got about 2 million out there.
You can come up to the microphone if you want. You guys handle it the way you want, but we,
Yeah, Mr. Kohler was never shy.
no, why don't you come up? Yeah, I know.
That's true.
Why don't you just come up? Look, it's a safe time, just come on up. So what, does he know
He would
you
have
knows
yelled
your
from the
question?
back of the room, right?
Okay,
All right, go ahead.
so for 162, the final payment has been made for
Oh,
that.
that's Mr. Kohler.
So, and then for Bridge 15, there's currently nothing encumbered for that.
So
as
you
far as-
anticipate you have, in the capital, it says you anticipate for 162. You think that there's not going to be any spending for that next year?
Didn't that get completed?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
So
That was the one they opened this
we
year.
received the final invoice
Okay,
for
but
it, yeah.
okay, so that'll be done, but it's in our summary,
It wasn't
It's
closed
included.
out. We just closed it out. We just got the
Okay.
invoice maybe a
So-
couple weeks ago.
So really, we can just delete that from this part of the
We
budget?
didn't know how far it would go, so I reached out to
Okay.
Lehigh County, because Lehigh County maintains 162 and 165, which are the two over the Lehigh.
Okay.
And then they send us a bill and we reimburse them.
So then, by my calculation, that leaves about $2 million for the Meadows Road Bridge.
Correct, so, yeah, exactly.
So we do
That's
have,
where we're at right now, so we get funds every year for the,
so theoretically, we do have the funding to do that work.
theoretically, yes.
Theoretically, we do. So rather than be in this continuous battle that we've been with the TIP and the Planning Commission, what you're telling us is the county has the funds to complete much of this project.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, Bridge 15 is one of our more complicated bridges that we would need to replace, and I'm not confident that $2 million would do it. If the county has to outlay the entirety of the funds for that project on our own.
How much more?
At this point, I can't say without having a more finalized design.
So I guess then, what about the engineering portion of that? I know that we've said that at some point PennDOT looked at it. Will we get a plan from them at some point that'll give us an indication as to what this might cost and how far our $2 million could go?
Yeah, so we're still in the preliminary engineering phase of the TIP. I have a call with PennDOT later this week, actually, to hopefully get some clarity on the situation. But we will get deliverables from PennDOT in terms of plans as this process continues.
And we anticipate that sometime next year?
I would hope so, yes.
Well, did we also not say that we were gonna ask for a meeting specific to that bridge and to request that they come? I'm sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
apologize. Did we not say that we were gonna ask for that?
No, that's fine. I was just trying to figure out where the money, you know, how much money is. But, you know, according to the way that this budget is, if I do a little bit of simple math, there is about $2 million that the county has available to do some work on that bridge. Now, maybe it's more than 2 million, I don't know, but I think we are able to fund a bulk of that project so that it gets done in less than, 6 years or whatever they're talking about.
Well, is that,
I think we could all agree there's nothing simple about that bridge. Maybe the math is simple, but.
I
it's
agree,
not.
but it appears to me that there's money in the county budget that could go a long way towards getting it done.
well, to add into your theoretical speculation, I guess I could say that it sounded like when we had heard Ms. Bradley speak last time, that there was I was informed, I guess, or confused, maybe a little of both. She said, all you have to do is request to put it on our list and you'll get any bridge done you want. I thought that's pretty much what she said. So until we get that straightened out, I want to get these, believe me, no one wants to get these darn bridges out of our hair more than I do. I mean, that's part of what we do, but I mean, I would like to get that clarified. I mean, who can we get to do what with money? I agree with you that ultimately we have money, but as far as committing it immediately, I don't know. I'm sort of a bit confused now with some of the information we got. I'll be straight up with that. I just don't know. But as far as preliminary studies go, so we don't have an engineering study on this bridge at all yet.
Can you clarify what you mean by engineering study?
Well,
I mean, we have
yeah, tell me what you have. Thank you,
very
Mr. McCoy. Tell me
preliminary.
what you have. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. This isn't an interrogation. Yeah, I'm just curious, where are we at with that bridge, if any place at all? That would be helpful.
The preliminary work that's been done, they've surveyed the site. They've had, wetlands geologists out there
Okay.
to delineate wetlands in the project area. The cultural, historical resources report was already conducted. So those are the preliminary aspects of the job.
And this is just asking, I think with all the bridges, it helps, as we know, as much as possible. I thank you for that. So basically then, the next step, when there is a next step, would be what after that information you gave me?
Well, once they, ultimately give us if they're giving us the go-ahead to do a complete replacement, then, the actual structural design of the bridge can proceed. We also know that there's gonna have to be some sort of, realignment of the channel and the stream bank because it comes in as such a heavy skew there. So those are the kinds of plans that can really proceed once we get the go-ahead on, how to proceed with this project.
And I mean, I would guess that that's something you would prefer not to do until we have a clear vision and a clear direction on exactly how it's going to get paid for. I mean, how much, whether we're going to pay, if we are we going to put in money, or are we going to pick up the whole tab? But I think, is that, you don't want to get involved in that part of the planning until maybe we have a better vision.
Exactly, yes.
All right. I was just tacking on to Mr. Kusik's question because bridges right now, are, at least a few of them, are the bane of our existence. And thank you. I didn't mean to. I'm not as bad a guy, I'm not as great a guy as I think I am, but I'm not as bad a guy as they write that I am. Okay, go ahead.
So the realignment of the stream cost, is that part of the bridge building itself, or can that come from a different fund?
That would be bundled in with the bridge work.
And which would be 80/20 if it continued on the tip, right?
Correct, yes. The
With
county's
us being
only,
on the 20 end?
Yeah,
Which is,
by all means. Yeah, I mean, and we're going to, I'm guessing we'll find out more as this year progresses. I mean, is that a fair guess?
I'm hopeful I have a lot better picture after my call on Thursday.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing how your call on Thursday goes. I'm sure Mr. Kusik wants to hear how your call goes on Thursday. Are you finished, Mr. Kusik?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just, I've sat here for a while, and I think that the frustration I've shared with this executive and two previous ones is the inability of the bureaucracy to make a decision and take definitive action here. To me, it's clear. I know there's people out there that think it's historic, but, my 77 Buick was historic too, but it didn't get me where I wanted to go anymore. This bridge doesn't get people where they want to go, so it needs to be replaced. Now, there are things we could do to make it look somewhat historic. I mean, I've seen replacements of bridges that look older. You can do it in a way that it looks nice and it pays homage to the past. But to me, it's clear it needs to be replaced, whether it's on the historic register or not. The purpose of a bridge is to get from one side of the stream to the other. So it's apparent to me that we have, certainly a large chunk of the money is contained within our Act 13 budget. And I would hope that this bureaucracy can be broken and that the engineering and the architecture can be done and we can bid this out as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually tend to agree with you. I think we've come a long way with bridges. And I mean, I'm hoping that before next year is out, that definitive plan we're talking about, at the very least, we know what road we're on, and it's not being discussed, as you said, as it's been with 3 different administrations. So, but yeah, I mean, the people want a bridge over there. It's at the end of the day. I don't know how many want historic or how many just want a safe bridge they can cross. Mr. Myers, go ahead.
I just want an explanation of how it's going to be paid for. How I'm hearing 80/20. What do you explain this to me? The TIF money or whatever it is we're doing to use it.
Yeah, so part of the agreement to get this bridge onto the tip was the transportation improvement program. So it's it's a mixture between federal funds and local funds. So the agreement that the county made at the time was we would kick in 20% of all project costs, and the other 80% comes from PennDOT.
Are we, with this agreement and with all the changes going on this year with COVID, how's that going to affect the TIP? Are they still agreeing upon whatever we do?
Well, the project's still on the tip, they can't remove it from the tip at this
That was
point.
the question I was trying to find out. Okay, thank you.
I think it all comes down to timing
Yes.
and whose ox is getting fed and whose ox is getting gored. All right, any other questions? I think we've
Comment.
crossed this bridge. What? Oh,
Comment.
Go ahead.
Lessons learned from bridges that I've paid attention to in the last 3 years I've been here. P3 was not a good deal, and the county administration did a good job with all the directors and everybody involved, council. And I think they were able to make a lot of good out of what we were handed. And I see there's some money in here. I hear Mr. Kusick talking about it. I understand it's a process. Some of this stuff is not defined. I'm not here to defend the administration, but I'm paying attention. And I know it doesn't happen overnight. I know I don't have as much time on council as some of the folks here. But I think it's fiscally responsible to put something in here. I mean, the P3, they didn't really know what they were getting into. And, you know, they went to put it together. None of the utilities were done. None of the money was done. I mean, all these things that you don't think about, if you don't put something there, you know, you'll never get a bridge. So that's all.
Any other questions on this bridge? Mr. Lott, your backyard, you okay? You satisfied? Good. Okay. Replace the bridge. I think we're all at that point. Get a flag made up that says that. All right, so we did that. Act 44 bridge improvements. Let's move on. That's page 167. All right. Anybody have any questions on the Act 44 bridge improvements? If not, we're going to move on then to Act 89 bridge on 168.
Well, can I double back?
Okay.
Real quick, in
No, double
fairness,
back.
is there a timeline for Bridge 225?
Yeah, that'll be put out to bid, most likely next month, and we're shooting for a, spring construction start date on that one.
Thank you. Upper Mount Bethel,
Upper Mount Bethel. All right.
National Park Road.
Bridge, Act 89, bridge improvements. And you see Bridge 93, the Ilex Mill Road.
And that was actually a carryover from a previous budget that work was completed last year, so that should be removed.
Okay, I was just going to ask you about that, thank you. Any questions? That's basically, now we'll get to,
Just one question,
oh, go ahead, Mr. Myers.
because what bridge number, because I'm the new kid on the block, that we constantly were hearing from the woman from Lower Mount Bethel, what bridge number was that? That's
It's
on
5 and
T3?
41.
Yeah, most likely Bridge 41, Little Creek Road.
The stone,
Then I know that scares the hell out of me.
the stone bridge, that's the one. That's the lady was talking about, where the stones
That
are
she
falling
claims
out.
doesn't need to be repaired?
Correct.
That's a P3 bridge.
That's a P3 bridge, am I correct? So that's got to get done then, correct? Part of the contract?
I think the GPA is currently in the process of a process regarding that. Well, look, I'm not going to even pretend to speak for the GPA. My first year here, I spoke enough about the GPA. But the thing is, they're working on resolving that issue. Could I say that, Ms. Hefner?
Yes, you can.
Okay. They're in the process of resolving that issue. I think Mr. Dertinger would agree with that, too. He sits on it. I mean, it's an autonomous board, so we really, but I think I can say that much. hopefully, however it happens, it's going to be resolved. I know we're getting a lot of hope on the bridges, but if bridges were made of hope, they'd all be done. So anyway, okay. If there's no other questions, then we're going to go to page 169, the P3 bridge improvements.
That's exciting.
And that's page 160, I believe, in your, yes, in your book, your white, blue book, 160, 161. So P3 bridge improvements, 169 in the white budget book. Have at it, if there's any questions. I have no questions. I'm sorry, Kevin, go right ahead.
After the 10-year period, when these bridges, do they automatically return back to the county from the GPA? Or do we have to accept them back? Is that written in the document that after 10 years, they automatically come back to the county?
Yeah, after the 10 years, they get deeded back to the county.
Deeded back, and we really have no say at that point. It's back whether we want them or not. I mean, I realize they're just in the GPA, but that's all in the original documentation, that these things roll back to us after 10 years.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I'm very interested to make sure I knew my time frames, because how long it's sort of like a lease on how long we're locked in on this thing. And we're making our payments. So anyway, any other questions on the P3 bridge improvements? If I'm not mistaken, I don't think there's a lot of wiggle room there as per the contract. This budget page is pretty much laying out what we have to do under our contract. No questions? Good. All right. Let's go on then. Let's get to Public Works cost allocation. That's 170 in the white book and 180, 161 in your blue book. And that just really lays out how they allocate their costs to the different service areas. So anybody have any question on that? I see everything in general is down. Okay. If there's no questions on that, we'll wrap up that part and we'll jump to capital projects. Now, capital projects will be on page 188 in your white book and 197 in your blue book. You can look at that. I don't know, is there anything you'd like to kick off with that, Mr. Mealy, or just want to wait and see what somebody says? On page one,
I mean, I guess I'll just preface it by saying COVID obviously threw a bit of a wrench into our plans and, really needed us to, or caused us to reevaluate a lot of the capital projects that we might have already had funding allocated for, and potentially, looking to reallocate that funding to higher priority projects as they arose.
yeah. I'm going to ask you a general question, budget-wise. Do you see if, and I do say if because I think the last I heard earlier today was even if this new vaccine proves close to what they're saying it should be as an effective rate, probably you won't see widespread usage of it until summer. Going forward, let's say once we get to a point where, generally speaking, the immunity is such that things can be more normalized, your budget reflects that in that if you get a chance to move on some of these projects, you'll be able to move as quick as you have to.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're just focused on addressing the immediate concerns and as well as, maintaining our existing facilities. That's really what our primary objective is now.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
There's no big project. We're just going to try to maintain what we got. keep up with what we got going on?
I mean, we just completed a number of fairly large projects, the forensic center, the parking lots here. So I would say our larger focus is on maintenance at this point.
Okay. I'm gonna go to page 190, the 190, 191 in your white book, and that's the 2013 and 2019 bond issue projects. Take a look at that and see if you have any questions. Oh, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, sorry, the emergency generator, you're projecting additional expenditures next year. Can you give us an update there?
Yes, this project is, currently the design work is underway. We have some generators here at the government center that are being underutilized. And that project would just look to tie some additional loads into those generators that we already have.
Okay, this was 2013. What's been the obstacle to getting this completed that you overcome?
Well, I mean, I know this org is the one that funded the Graysdale generators, so that kind of tied up a large chunk of that money, and we didn't want to, completely draw down the bond funding there until that was resolved. So at this point, we're just trying to find projects that would be good fits for this remaining funding.
Okay, so you didn't want to spend the money until you got the Graysdale one done, and I know all about that. But then, just to follow up then, there's additional $734,000 for the boiler house and emergency generator at Graysdale. Where are we with that? Do you anticipate more spending on that next year?
We do have a project, we do have some needs at the boiler house that we're looking to address with this funding. We've met with a couple contractors out there to, get their take on, the improvements that are needed. In terms of the generator, I mean, that funding can be reallocated to, other generator projects throughout the county. It doesn't necessarily need to stay at Graysdale.
So for the boiler house, you don't have an estimate or any ideas? I mean, that's...
At this point, we don't. I know a project was in the works several years ago that when we came in and kind of reevaluated what exactly they were proposing, it was nonsensical. It was complete overkill to address, problems that didn't necessarily exist. So we've been trying to scale back the scope of that project and just focus on the needs there.
Okay, so you anticipate coming to us to reallocate that sum or a portion of that $734,000?
Potentially.
Okay. I guess then my next question is Mr. Barrett? No.
He's in
My next question is what if you don't spend bond money within a certain amount of time, you run the risk of facing arbitrage issues. I don't know if we're there yet, but has that been looked at? I mean, I know that's not a question for you. It's probably for Steve or for the budget administrator. Have we
Uh-oh, Brendan.
taken a look at that?
I just don't remember when the last arbitrage.
Brandon, you have to, I'm sorry, you have to come up to speak. Nature of the world today.
Yeah, I'll just restate my question. I mean, this is 7 years. It'll be going on 8 next year. At what point do we run the risk of having arbitrage issues for not spending all this money?
I forget the exact timeline of when the next arbitrage is due. I know that we discuss it regularly in fiscal, but I'm not sure of the exact.
Could you get
day
the
that next one-
information then and just?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can
You
find out when the next
could let
arbitrage
us
is
know
due for
when,
the 13
because
bond.
it just seems like 7 and possibly 8 years is significant amount of time that we do run that risk.
As long as you have any questions for Brandon, he's our, in lieu of the Norco Money Man, he's
He's Norco Money Man Jr.
Junior. Thank you. I think that probably is it, at least for now. All right, any other questions?
Or-
Mr. Myers?
Just a question, are you looking at any other emergency generators throughout that you could set some of that money that way?
Yes, there's some options that we're exploring here at the government center.
Is there more tying in of the generators that we just did with the prison? Is there more work that needs to be done over there?
No, we're completed at the prison.
Mr. Parsons, are you happy? I know you were very, over the years, active with the generator situation at Graysdale.
Generators at Graysdale are in great shape. This bond money from 2013 that we are looking, this bond money in 2013 that we're looking to roll over to do some of the generators here, the definition we were given, because we're using it for generators, and that initial bond money for the generators at Graysdale was also some work here at the courthouse. So we are just using that to finish that 2013 money up, so we don't get in trouble from everybody. So that's, you know, that's what, and you're gonna see that that'll be spent easy on what we're planning to do with that money. Yeah.
All right.
Just another.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Myers.
How many of our buildings,
Hold on.
Maybe Scott can't leave till we spend the money.
There's a conflict. Yeah.
just for Mr. Parsons, how many buildings do we have that aren't backed up with generators or need help? Mr. Parsons?
Oh,
God can't help you.
Sorry, Mr. Myers, your question again?
How many buildings do we have that are, maybe don't have backup generators? Or is there any that we don't have?
I
Or
think we have
do have?
backup generators here for everything, but we just.
All the buildings that we
don't
own?
have domestics.
Domestic relations.
have generator power in a domestic building.
Right, domestics are across the street. Everything else has some sort of generation. We're just looking because of the generators that are here
right,
are like 15 or 20%, 25% usage,
right.
that we could actually put more onto it.
Does that include something like archives?
Archives has its own generating system. Yeah. They
All
don't-
right, any questions for Mr. Parsons while he's up
Well,
here?
you're gonna get back to us and see what,
No. What's that? No,
No, you answered him, no. he's
20,
not getting back.
24 days.
Good for you. He's leaving. He's not getting back to you, he's not getting back to Mr. McClure, he's not getting back to anybody.
Oh, you missed the beginning.
Yeah, no, he came up, yeah, no.
I didn't mean to bother you, sir.
Yeah,
I understand that's your time, Mrs.
yeah. Okay, all right, so let's get back here. I want to finish up the 2019 budget. Any questions on the 2019 bond?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, go ahead.
You still have 1.57 million that you're gonna spend up at the forensic center next year. Is that accurate?
I don't believe we would need 1.5 million to.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the white book, 191, projected expenditure forensic center, 1,574,200. Having been up there, I'm just wondering,
Oh, I see what the issue is. So
what expense did we spare up there that I'm unaware of?
yeah, so the projected expenditures, that 8.6 million, that's obviously low. I mean, this budget was prepared back in June, I think, so, I mean, I didn't quite know for sure how much of that, the funding would already be invoiced. So we are past that. I think we're closer to, yeah, it's closer to about a little over 10 million, I think, that is encumbered currently.
So
That makes sense.
so I guess my question is, how much money is left and what do we still need to spend it on?
Would that be retainage from the project?
Punch list items?
No, the
Well, let's-
retainage
let's
is,
give him a chance to
It looks like retainage,
think about it.
it's 10%.
I mean, and if rather than, if you're not sure, spitballing, if you could double check and then, on anything like this, if you could get back to us,
yeah, I'd have to double check that.
I mean, is that acceptable? I don't know, if he doesn't have the information at the moment.
Yeah, like I said, I'd just be interested to know what's left,
here's
because
Well, the,
Oh,
oh, there
God.
you go.
I don't know, if- talk about blessings or curses.
They
Mr.
put the
Barron
bat,
just
they
walked
put the
in.
bat signal out. Well, what about the parking lot?
All
Will
right,
that
hold
be
it.
part of that
Here
too?
comes Mr. Dertinger. He answers
The
all.
items that are still out of that, that remaining 1.5 is addressed in some of the change orders that you had addressed earlier out. The relocation of 16,000 tons of dirt, the work that we have to do in the detention pond that has to be redone based on the new calculations and what was required by DEP as we were moving forward on that project. Originally, we had some very significant, much higher costs to deal with that detention pond and the water issues in that area. We were able to re-engineer a number of things and address those. So those are the elements that were, that we mentioned during the dedication, items that were not accounted for in the project itself. And this number here was just the original contract. The MOPEC stuff is not appearing to be on that 8.6 million. The MOPEC was something that you had, all the silver stuff, everything that was stainless steel, that was MOPEC, and that's another substantial cost. So this will just be the costs that are necessary to close out the project that were all accounted for, or at least budgeted for, as the project was moving forward.
Great, so just to follow up, then much of the earth moving, okay, so real simple, that big giant pile of dirt,
The big giant pile of dirt and the big space next to that pile of dirt, which people have taken to calling Lake Charles. 8 feet deep unnecessarily. All of that needs to be moved. That giant pile of dirt needs to be both exported off the property as well as spread on the property, because we don't have enough room to just lay that dirt out without causing other drainage issues. So we
Okay.
can't just lose it there.
and you anticipate doing that next year, because it's.
We're doing it now.
Oh,
It's being done now, but we've also had with the general contractor and our construction manager, a lot of fighting back and forth on pricing. So a lot of these numbers have not come to fruition to Mr. Umili, because we're still arguing over what the final cost is for some of these things, or whether or not it is a substantial or a reasonable change order, or whether they're just trying to put things in past and see if anyone's paying attention. I can assure you, we're
you're
paying
paying
attention.
attention, good to hear.
Well, as long as he's there, any questions on this? Thank you. If you don't get Lake Charles, maybe you at least could get Charles Swamp or something. Mr. Kusia.
Yeah, since Mr. Barron was kind enough to show up with a late pass, one of the one of the issues that I raised about the 2013 bond issue, there's still a significant amount of funding. Is arbitrage a question that needs to be addressed?
So we have to do an arbitrage evaluation. I believe 2021 is when that comes up. So the issuing agents, the people that will actually issue our certificates, because we pay a fee to have those certificates, they will tell us that we need to do arbitrage. Sometimes now, as long as it's a tax-free bond and we're not making the interest on the money, which we don't make, we make so much interest in general, we don't make interest on that particular piece of money. So therefore, what we do is, as long as it doesn't exceed like what we'd spend, or we put the money back into that particular project, we meet arbitrage. We're not anywhere near close to that percentage, because the 2013 amount is so low compared to what we borrowed, I believe. So we should be okay.
Okay, well, that answers my question, thank you.
All right, thank you. I think though we're finished with the bond issues, if I'm not mistaken. And now we're going to go to the capital improvements plan on page 193. And you can see that goes, it's continued on page 194. And that, if you look at it, it gives you the descriptions, and it runs down all of the origination dates and what's being planned. And it gives you the estimated useful life, so if you want to take a look at that.
Did we start South Union Street yet?
Not yet, but it's imminent. Yeah, I think we just got the permit. Yes, yeah, the permit's, been obtained at this point. It's, we're probably about a week or two out, I think, with the contractor.
The elevators, is that just basic maintenance here in the government center?
Yeah, that's just, kind of a generic amount that's thrown in there. It's,
Okay. Juvenile gym, oh, I see, never mind. All right, as you look at this, are there any questions or anything jump out? There's one of your favorite items, Ms. Vargo Hefner, video conferencing, poly clarity.
Oh. It's only useful for 7 years, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
I thought it was gonna be the miracle cure of our lives.
And then, as I said, it continues over, your parks are on page 194. Are there any questions on any of this? Mr.
Yeah, obviously. Jail tier renovations, 1.5 million. I say that facility is functionally obsolete, but what are the plans? Do we have an engineering that's done for that? Can you give us an update?
yes, the engineering work for the RHU, BHU renovations, that was done last year, basically. We have the plans about 90% complete. It just, once we kind of saw everything that we needed to do, the price exceeded the capital that we had available for it. So we put the project on hold. The 1.5 million that's shown in the budget, that would serve as the county's 50% match to a RACP grant that Community and Economic Development applied for. So, we're envisioning it would be about a $3 million project when it's all said and done. So that 1.5 million would be the county's, 50% match.
Okay, so that's a placeholder that we need in order to do a match. Where's the grant coming from?
RACP, it's Redevelopment Assistance Capital.
It's
Program.
RCAP, is that the?
But it's
RACP?
RACP.
Usually that's like the wish list that the state, we send a wish list to our state reps and state senators and hope that at some point the governor releases that money. So I guess we really don't know whether or not we're gonna get that. That's kind of, it seems to me like we're putting up 1.5 million, hoping that we get some pull from the governor or our state senators or somebody like that. I guess my question is, if we don't get that grant money, how desperate do we need to do those renovations? Obviously it's 100+ years old, so this is the 1871 section, right?
No, I don't believe
Which
that
part,
is.
this is the newer part?
Do you know when that tier was built? RHU, BHU? Oh, it is.
So it is in the 1871 section.
Yeah.
If you, I don't mind, you can do that, but then, Mr. Amelie, you have to say on the mic then what people were saying.
We believe that section was constructed in the early 1900s.
All right. So,
Where's that located at? Because I don't know about Tom, but I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
Next door.
It's located next to the cafeteria, kind of.
In the prison?
Yes.
I got that.
So I guess my question or my suggestion is that at some point, maybe we have a committee meeting, because I think we need a lot more detail on this. I mean, obviously, it's very old, and it is functionally obsolete. I'd like to know what exactly the plans are, because to put a placeholder of 1.5 million, and RCAP grants are, no guarantee. The grants we get from DEP and for parks and open space, that's a little bit more consistent. It seems to me that we're putting a placeholder of a lot of money that may or may not come to fruition. So, again, I think I'd like to see some more detail.
Well, and I think, if you're gonna have a committee meeting, that's a prerogative. I think then we also, though, need to get the definition of functionally obsolete. I mean, is it something that we can fix or we have? If it's functioning and the law says it's functioning, by definition, I mean, it's old, but I don't know if it'd be functionally obsolete. I know there's been phase programs done over the years, and you talked about plans on a shelf, and I'm sure there's plenty of those plans on shelves. This is a subject that's been broached successfully and unsuccessfully in the past. But I mean, as far as the prison goes, yeah, I mean, I guess, whatever we could, if you can do it, Mr. Myers, at some point, we can certainly bat around the prison, where we're at with it, and maybe Mr. Costera we could find out exactly where we stand legally with the prison. I don't think we're breaking any laws with the prison. So, I mean, yeah, I get it. You're talking about the old thing of throwing good money after bad. The question is, are we? And I mean, that can be open to interpretation, I guess, depending on what your overall plan is. But it is very old. There's sections of it that are very old, no question about that.
We feel it's a better candidate for rehabilitation than the Meadows Road Bridge.
Uh-oh, be careful with
Mike, you made
ad
it
hoc
funny?
humor here. You never know.
I missed what he said.
That's gallows.
Wow. You could be going down a rabbit hole.
Uh-oh, he's been around us too long, guys. That's bad.
Okay, Mr. O'Meara, be careful.
Mr. Miller, can we put that on the agenda for one of our meetings so we can have a discussion about this, please?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions besides what we've heard so far?
It's been a long day, right?
Questions? If there's no other questions on any of the capital improvements plan, we're going to end this budget set. Ms. Zemba.
I just wanted to advise everybody to please have their budget amendments to me by November 20th. So I can get them all together for the December 1st meeting.
What's the meeting date?
The next meeting will be December 1st, when we have our budget amendment hearing.
Is that a 4:30 start, please?
Yes,
What day of the week is that?
that is a Tuesday, because we have our meeting to adopt the budget on the 3rd.
Thank you.
All right, so there you go. If there's no other questions, we're adjourned. Thank you.